All right, we'll begin. So thank you for coming to the STEM OPT reporting workshop for the fall 2021 semester. Again, this workshop is intended for students with STEM majors who are currently on or pending a STEM OPT period. We'll jump right in.
Okay, everyone. So here we did provide an overview of the 24-month STEM OPT extension reporting requirements. So first of all, we want to emphasize that reporting information for your STEM OPT period is mandatory. We want to share with you that your CVIS record status can be impacted for exceeding unemployment time or failure to report vital information regarding your STEM OPT period. So for this point, we actually want to share with you that SEVP has turned on an automatic function that auto terminates your CVIS record for failure to report or actually even to exceed unemployment time. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to exceed your unemployment time of 90 days. Also, the third point, students are required to report any changes to personal or employment information within 10 days of the change that occurred. So a lot of times students do pass this 10-day period, and unfortunately, that's where we step in and assist you. But again, please keep in mind that you do have 10 days to report that change. Next, employment reporting accompanied by Form I-983. So the Form I-983 is required when you are making changes or reporting your employment information. So early on in your application process, you became familiar with the Form I-983. So just moving forward for your 24-month STEM OPT extension period, the Form I-983 is part of your reporting requirements. Also, reporting is required every 6 months, even when no changes occur. So at the start of your STEM OPT period, just count 6 months from that date. Moving forward, every 6 months, you should be reporting even when no changes occur. And students no longer have the ability to self-report employer changes through their own SEVP student portal. So again, as you transition from initial OPT to STEM OPT, you'll notice that change. You are unable to report for yourself. The reporting is done through our CSULA STEM OPT reporting portal, which is the final point here. You are required to submit your Form I-983 through that portal, and a DSO within our office will be assisting you. Okay, so here we do provide 3 resources for you to keep in mind. Number 1, there is a comprehensive overview of the F1 STEM OPT reporting rules and regulations for F1 students, and it can be found through the Study in the States STEM OPT Hub website. So again, this resource is very detailed for you to read through. We highly suggest you refer to it as you move forward. Second point here is reporting information and instructions can also be found on the 24-month STEM OPT cover sheet that was provided to you at the start, well, actually prior to your STEM OPT period. When you did apply for STEM OPT through our office, you were provided this cover sheet, and it actually includes a lot of information for before and after you mail your application, and also the information regarding your reporting requirements. And lastly, here, we do suggest that you contact us as advisors, so James, Nicole, or myself, to answer your questions regarding STEM OPT reporting. Okay, so here we do want to share with you a comparison of STEM OPT reporting and also the post-completion OPT reporting that you've experienced already. So first of all, unlike the initial 12-month post-completion period, the reporting there, the F1 students no longer have the ability to self-report employer information on their own SEVP student portal during STEM OPT. So any employer information that changes or occurs would have to be reported through the international student portal, as we mentioned earlier, you no longer have access to make those changes yourself through SCVP. So during STEM OPT, F1 students can log in to SCVP to view the employment record, but will not have permission to make any edits to the employer information. The third point here, edits can still be made to your US address and email ID or username through SCVP, and you are responsible to update that information on SCVP. And lastly here, all employment reporting and accompanying form I-983 must be uploaded through our reporting form. So here's the link here. It's within the STEM OPT employment category on our website. And it's quite easy. You provide your personal information, your employment information, and also your form I-983, which we'll go into detail later.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I'm going to talk to you guys now about what our actual reporting form looks like and how to navigate to it on our website. So first, to access the reporting form, we've given you the link. We'll share this link and the other resources that we've mentioned here with you at the end. So don't worry, we'll send you everything. But a lot of you are already familiar with this, and some of you who might be starting STEM OPT, this is going to be where you're going to submit all of your reports through your 2-year STEM period. So the easiest way to navigate, besides just the direct link, is to go to www.calstatela.edu/international. That will bring you to our international office homepage. And from there, on the left side of your screen, you're going to see the forms and handouts link. You can open forms and handouts, and then you'll get a bunch of different drop-down categories. You'll go to the one that says employment, and under the drop-down menu in employment, at the very bottom, the last option you'll see is the STEM OPT extension reporting form. Okay, so that's how to navigate and to access the actual form. Once you're in the form and you access, you're going to see this. This is the very first question that you're going to have to answer in the reporting form. We're asking you, what are you reporting for? And there's all these different types of options. We get a lot of confusion about the different options and which one is the correct one for you to pick depending on what type of report you're submitting. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about each of the options, go into detail so you know exactly which item you should select depending on what you're reporting for. So the first thing to know is that validation reports are going to be due every 6 months after your approved STEM OPT start date. Even if no changes occur, like if you stay with the same employer in the same job and nothing changes at all through your first 6 months or even your first year or your full 2 years, you still have to submit validation reports at the 6-month, the 12-month, the 18-month, and the 24-month period. All right, please know that your SCVP portal is going to be sending you notifications and reminders about when your validation reports are due. You're also going to receive email reminders to whatever email account is linked to your SCVP portal. You should be receiving messages saying, hey, you have a 6-month validation report due on such and such date, and will tell you that you need to start thinking about submitting that. Okay, so the point here being, even though your SCVP portal is mainly for reporting during your initial OPT period, please continue to log into SCVP even through STEM OPT, because it's going to help give you those reminders about when your reports are due. And also you'll be able to view your information to make sure that we at the school are updating your information correctly and finishing those validations for you after you submit reports. Okay, so you'll see on the options, you're going to have an option for a 6-month, a 12-month, an 18-month, and a 24-month. Every single person should be submitting a validation report every 6 months, regardless if a change occurs or not. Okay, Now, at the 12-month, the 1-year mark, and at the very end, the 2-year mark, so 12 and 24 months, a special requirement, the I-983 page 5 evaluations are required at those year mark periods, at the first year and at the very end of the second year as well. If you've seen the I-983 form, page number 5, you'll notice is divided into 2 sections. There's a top section, which is titled Evaluation on Student Progress. So that top box is to be completed at the 12-month or the 1-year mark into your STEM OPT. And the bottom box, the bottom portion, which is titled Final Evaluation on Student Progress, is to be completed and submitted at the 24-month mark, the very end of your STEM OPT, or anytime you finish or complete or end an employment opportunity. So if you're not at the end of your STEM OPT, but you're ending a job and you're leaving a company, you'll also want to complete page 5 because you are finishing that employment opportunity. If you're somebody who works for the same employer for the entire 2 years of STEM OPT, then you'd be submitting that bottom part of page 5, the final evaluation, at the 24-month mark. So the top part of page 5, you should only be completing it one time in your STEM career, and that's when you complete 12 months of STEM OPT. The bottom part, the final evaluation, there are 2 different scenarios when you might need to complete that final eval. One would be at the 24-month mark, or anytime you officially end an employment opportunity during STEM period. Okay, so this is a closer look at that I-983 page 5, and this is the top portion of that form. So this again is going to be completed at the 12-month mark, and it looks like this. For the date evaluation range you see here, the starting date should be your STEM OPT start date, and the to date should be 12 months later, 1 year into your STEM period. So for example, if you began your STEM OPT on September 28th, 2021, that would be your start date, and the to date would be September 28th, 2022, 12 months later. In the evaluation here, what you're looking to do is you're looking, if you read the instructions here, explain some of the new knowledge you've acquired, some of the new skills you've acquired, maybe some of the goals you accomplished, some of the projects that you successfully finished, etc. This is looking for just a short evaluation of your first 12 months of work. This does need to be signed by you, the student, as well as by your employer, okay? Once you complete this, you will submit it to the portal and you'll upload it with your 12-month report. Okay, so again, this top portion of page 5 should only be filled one time during your STEM period at the 12-month mark. Moving on to the second part of page 5, this is the bottom portion, final evaluation. Again, there's going to be 2 different scenarios when you would possibly have to fill this bottom portion. The first scenario is going to be at the very end, the 24-month of your STEM extension period. You'll want to fill the final evaluation. And the other scenario is if you end an employment opportunity. So even if it's not the end or the 24-month mark of your STEM OPT and you end a position and you're going to go look for something else, you'll need to complete this final evaluation for ending your employment with that particular employer. You can see here on the reporting options that we have to select from, we give you reminders here if a report requires an I-983 or a page 5. So whenever you're selecting a report, one way to double check is by reading the full line and seeing, okay, if I'm selecting this one, I know it's going to require a page 5. Remember to read that full thing. A lot of the times we'll get reports for 24-month or for ending, and there's no page 5 attached, right? So remember, anytime you see this marker that tells you a page 5 is required, you must submit a page 5 and attach it with your report as well. Okay, the same exact thing here for final evaluation. It's very similar to what you did in the 1-year, 12-month evaluation. You're just looking to identify goals accomplished, things you've learned, projects you finished, basic overview. Some students like to do this bullet point list. You can do bullet points, that's fine. Some students like to write in a sentence paragraph form. That's okay. However you feel you want to do that, it's up to you, as long as you give a description of what is asked there. Okay, for the final evaluation, again, from the from date, it should be your STEM OPT start date, and then the to date is going to be that end, the 24-month end date. If you're submitting for an end of employment that is before your STEM 24-month period, the end date here should just be the end date when you stopped working for that particular employer that you were reporting for. Okay, so adjust the end date depending on which of the options you're choosing from. Okay, the options at the very bottom here for employer worksite address update and salary supervisor or job duties update. So either of these options require you can see here, an I-983 upload needs to be accompanied here. Anytime there is a change, a material change to the information on the I-983 versus the last I-983 that you submitted to us, any information changes from that, you should be uploading a new and revised I-983 with the new information. So even if it's something as small as like your salary changed by a couple figures, maybe your supervisor changed, or maybe you added a job duty onto your list of responsibilities, something as small as that, you still need to complete an updated I-983, specify what information changed, and submit the new I-983 marked with the appropriate reason for the change. Okay, a report, an updated I-983, pages 1 through 4, not page 5 here, but 1 through 4 are going to be required within that 10-day period of any of these items changing for you. Okay, so remember that 10-day deadline. A lot of people forget about that. And as Michael mentioned, in your SCVP portal, if you go beyond the 10-day mark, your account is going to have that listed as past due, meaning late. So the government will know if a report is late because they're going to look at the date of when the change occurred compared to when the report was submitted. And if it was beyond the 10-day period, it's going to be marked past due. So it's very important that you remember to report within the allotted time frame. Finally, the last two options on what are you reporting for are for new employment and for ending employment. All right. Let's say, for instance, you are working a job, the first job you applied with STEM, you're working that for maybe 6 months or a couple, maybe even a year, and you decide that you want to stop that job and look for a new job, or maybe you found a better opportunity and you're going to resign from one position and you're going to take another position. Anytime there's a change in employers from company A to a different company B, you're going to have to submit at least 2 different reports. The first report you're going to submit is for ending the employment with the first employer, and an I-983 page 5, the final evaluation is included with that because you're ending that employment opportunity. Remember, anytime you end an opportunity, page 5 final eval is required. The second report you'll have to submit for a job change is the new employment. This is going to require pages 1 through 4 of I-983 for the new employer that you're accepting. And this should be submitted within 10 days of you beginning that new employment opportunity. Okay, one thing that we see a lot of the time is, well, I changed my employer, but the HR and my manager are taking a little bit of time with the I-983, and I might not submit it within 10 days of my start date. Okay, if that's the case, just remember that whatever you report past 10 days is going to be marked as past due. And remember that failure to report or a usage of your accumulation of your 90 days unemployment or more than are allotted to you can impact your status. So do your best to communicate with your employers, your managers, your supervisors, and make sure that you're communicating with them so that you can get your I-983 filled and signed within your 10-day reporting requirement timeframe. Okay, this is just showing you that what we see, the DSO or the school staff, this is what we see on our side of the SEVP portal. Okay, so every 6 months, we get notifications in a student's profile that says this student is reached their 6-month period and they require a validation. This is what the validation actually looks like on the school side. This is what we see. And we have to verify to SEVP by checking off these boxes that you, the student, has reported your current address and provided current employment information on I-983. And we have to confirm that you've submitted your self-evaluation. So every 6 months or even at the 12 and 24-month period, we're going to receive these check boxes and we have to validate and confirm that you have submitted the report. We cannot complete these check boxes for you until you have submitted a proper report to our portal and uploaded any accompanying I-983s that are required with it. All right, so you'll see this on the end on your side of the portal. You're going to get reminders that your validation is due, and this is what it looks like on our end. When you submit your report, we check these boxes off and we submit it to SEVP through the online system. After we submit your report, you should also receive a notification on the student end of the portal letting you know that your validation was completed and submitted successfully, okay? So the point here being, make sure that you check the email that is registered with your SEVP portal. And even though you're moving into STEM OPT and you can't report by yourself through your portal, we still encourage you to log into your portal regularly because you're going to be getting those notifications. You're going to be able to look at your employer information to verify that everything we put in is correct. And you're going to be able to see when your validation reports are successfully submitted on our end. So bottom line here, continue logging into SEVP even through your STEM OPT period. Okay. This last slide here, we added in because this is one of the things during STEM OPT that we see a lot of issues with. We get a lot of confusion, a lot of questions. And so we wanted to clarify, we wanted to add this in here. This is page number 2 and 3 of the I-983 document. You'll notice that on page number 2, it's section 3 and it asks you for the employer information and it gives you a place for the employer name and the address and some other information. On page 3, it says employer site information and you'll see it asks for the site name, the address, right? So some students are wondering, well, why do I have 2 different places to put an employer name and then an address? It seems repetitive. Well, some students may work in a scenario where you are hired by a main employer, one employer, and that information, the employer that hires you and usually issues your paychecks is your main employer. They should be listed on page 2, section 3. So that's the main employer. Then you might be someone who, even though you're hired by a main employer, they have contracted you or they've sent you to work at a different site location that might be a client, a third party company that has hired your main employer for certain services like IT services or whatever it might be, technical support. So if you're in a situation where you have a main employer, but they send you to work at a different third party or client location, then what you would want to do is you'll list the main employer info here, and then the site location where you work on a daily basis is going to be listed over here on page 3. Okay, this might not apply to everybody. So if you're somebody who your main employer is the same place where you work on a daily basis, then you will be repeating that information in both sections on page 2 and page 3. If you work in one of those scenarios where you're working for a different third-party location, you're going to list the different information on page 2 and page 3. Okay, these are some of the additional resources. And what I'll do is I'll copy all of these for you, and I will add them into the chat box, and so that you guys all have access to this. There's also a very helpful SCVP document. It's a 1-page PDF, and it kind of goes over an overview of STEM OPT reporting. So a lot of these are directly from the government's websites, and I'll send these to you. And then we have also one of our internal forms with just some I-983 instructions as well. I will share all of this with you in the chat box momentarily. Okay, and that's everything. So we can open up for questions now. Nicole, if you want to start going through some of the questions in the chat box, and then we can also ask people to unmute and share their questions if they have them too.
Okay, sorry about that. So there was only one question. It was from Raj, and he was asking about the 60 or 90 days for STEM OPT unemployment. So I think this is a good opportunity to explain that, James.
Yes, yeah. So Raj, good question. In your first year of OPT, the C3B, post-completion OPT, you are given a total of 90 days unemployment time. When you're approved for STEM OPT, you are allotted an additional 60 days of unemployment time. So the 90 days, I can see Michael kind of replied here too. Whatever you do not use in the first year of that 90 will carry over into STEM OPT, and then you get an additional 60 days on top of it. So if you're somebody who did not use any employment time in your first year of OPT, when you're approved for STEM OPT, you should have a total of 150 days unemployment time. Okay, so you have to calculate however many you used of the 90 and know that the remaining days are going to carry over plus an additional 60 for STEM.
James Shravan has a question.
Yeah, Shravan, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah. Hey, James. Hey, everyone.
Hello.
So yeah, James, I have a question. So my question is around the last point that you showed on the PPT. So I would probably get promoted in my role very soon. So like, would I like, should I consider that as an entirely new employment, like you mentioned?
You mean you're gonna stay with the same employer,
yep,
but you're taking a new position?
Yep.
So in this case, Siobhan, what I would do is I would compare the job responsibilities you have. And if you are in fact starting a position that is completely different than the one that you had before, and your responsibilities are going to be completely changing, I would recommend that instead of editing the current employment record that you have, that you record it as an end in one opportunity, and then you start over with a new entry line for the new job. But it really depends on how much detail has changed. So what I'd recommend to you is, you have, I would say, meet with us on an individual basis in an appointment, and we can review what exactly is changing. And based on what we find out, we can recommend to you if you should make a whole new entry line, or if maybe we should just edit what we already have reported for you for that employer.
Sure, definitely. That's very helpful. Thanks, James. So I would actually set an appointment, but it's not an entirely changing role, but it's a more broader scope than my previous role. It's a much more broader scope than the previous role. So yeah, I would set up a call with you for sure. Thanks, James.
Yeah, it really comes down, because Siobhan, if you already reported your current job for that employer, and we're going to edit that entry, it's going to overwrite everything that was in there previously. So if it's going to be very similar, overwriting would be okay. But if it's a completely different job in a different department, and you're taking on a whole new role, then I think, in my opinion, it's best to leave that old entry there, because then you'll have a history of the change that occurred. Even though it was within the same employer, you're still going to have that old entry line with all of your old job information. And then you'll have a brand new one to show that you stayed with the same employer, but you took on a brand new role with completely different responsibilities, new pay, new supervisor, things like that.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks so much, James. I think the option B is very good. But either ways, I would set up a call with you for sure.
Yeah, meet with
Yeah,
one of
thanks.
us one-on-one, and we can discuss it in detail, and we can recommend what we think is best.
Yep, got it. Understood. Thanks, James. Thanks, everyone.
Mohammed, I see Mohammed's hand up. You can ask your question. Go ahead, Mohammed.
Actually,
Yeah.
my supervisors are in a meeting, so if you call back around 4:30.
Sorry, could you say it one more time? I didn't, whoever was speaking, I couldn't hear you. Could you just repeat that once more?
Go ahead, Mohammed.
Yeah, actually, hi, James. Thank you for this presentation. I have two questions, actually. I changed my employer. I tried to upload two separate I-83 forms. So one for ending one position and another one for the starting new position. For the first one, I received the confirmation email from your website, but for the second one, I didn't receive the confirmation. I noticed that the employer information is available in SEVP portal, but I was worried about not receiving the confirmation email. I want to ask you a question. Is it okay to not receive this email?
Yes, that's fine. And you are correct that the best way to verify if your report was successfully received by us and then updated into your account is by logging into your SCVP portal and checking to see that those changes have all been updated. If you can see the change in your account, that means we have received it and we've successfully reported it for you. We often will try to send out a confirmation message, but sometimes we're not able to do it because we get so many reports that sometimes it's hard for us to reply to every single report that comes in. But we always tell students the best way to verify that your report actually went through isn't by the email that we send out, but by logging into SCVP. If you can see the changes in your portal, that means we received your report and we reported that into your SCVP account.
Okay, thank you. And I have another question, if it's possible to ask another one. Is it possible?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I changed my actually. I started a new position in my current company, and the only change is my job description and my role. I know that in the form I-983, there is no any place to put the role name, but as I mentioned, my job description has totally changed.
Right.
So I wanted to know what should I do to inform this information. Actually, it happens a few days ago. Based on my understanding, I should just complete the form I-983 and
Correct.
upload this information based on the new job description. Is that enough?
Yes, and you'll notice that on page number, I believe it's page number 3 of the I-983, it asks your employer to actually spell out and describe what your job responsibilities and duties are. So that's the main page that your employer is going to want to focus on and updating the information on page number 3. You can, when you submit to us, you'll want to submit all 4 pages, 1 through 4. but
Mhm.
we understand that the only information that might be changing is going to be on just that page 3 portion.
Okay. And for making an appointment and talk to you about this and these type of issues, because I'm graduated about 2 years ago, I
Right.
think we are not available. We are not able to make an appointment through the website because
That's correct.
yeah.
Yes.
What should we
You're,
do
you can no longer use the appointment system because you are not an enrolled student. So if you want to access advisor services, you can see in the link in the chat box there, Michael has shared with you the link for our advising walk-in hours. We have walk-in hours available every day of the week. And I'm just going to give you, this is the link that Michael sent you is what you're looking at here. So you can access this all on your own. You can see that our advising walk-in hours schedule is listed here. We have Monday through Friday. We have a designated period every day of the week. And then the office link to the Zoom chat is listed right there as well. So you can join walk-ins with no appointment at any of the specified times. Or if you feel like you need a little bit of a longer appointment for more individual attention, you can always just send an email to an advisor and you can request to set up an appointment that way.
Okay, perfect, James. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mohammed.
Appreciate your support.
Thank you. Okay, I see a couple hands. I'm not sure who was next. Nicole, did you see who was first in line?
I didn't see who was first. I'm sorry. I was entering a chat.
No problem. I'm gonna go with M Bog. I saw you first. So M Bog, go ahead and ask your question.
All right. Thank you, James. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm at the end of, not the end, I mean, I'm at the start of my H-1B visa. It's gonna
Okay.
start October 1st. I got the notice.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm freaking out.
Well,
Yeah.
you should be excited. That's great news.
Yeah, so I sent in the I-797 notice.
Okay, yeah,
And I got an email that it was approved.
great.
I got my supervisor to sign on the bottom of the page 5.
Great. All right. And
I
you
sent
uh-huh.
it in as end of employment as of September 30th.
Okay, great. That's exactly what you need to do in your situation. If you've been approved for H-1B, you're eligible to continue your work. If you had a cap gap, then you might have had the cap gap extension till September 30th, or if your STEM OPT went into the future beyond October 1st, then you might be ending your STEM a little bit early on September 30th. Either way, you'll exactly what you explained that
They did the change of status.
Yes, so the
Yeah.
change of status will occur automatically on your H-1B start date. So
Okay,
if your
which is-
effective start date is set as October 1st,
Yeah.
your CVIS record should automatically close once your H-1B status goes into effect. So if you have already submitted your final evaluation for ending STEM OPT, there's nothing more that you need to do at this time. And the government will automatically close your CVIS record for you once your H-1B takes effect.
So is it possible to send you an email just for you to have a quick rundown to see if everything checks out well?
Yeah, what we often encourage students who've been approved for H-1B is if you contact us after October 1st, we can give you a confirmation that your CVIS record has successfully been closed due to your change of status. Usually SEVP will automatically complete your CVIS record for anybody who's been approved for an H-1B after October 1st. If you want to double check with us after October 1, we can give you a confirmation that your record's been successfully closed out. That's fine.
But I sent the end of employment on the 22nd. Is that fine?
That's fine. There's no problem with that. If you already knew that your ending date was going to be September 30th and you submitted a few days early, that's not a problem. That's okay. What I do want to point out, and I think Nicole and I have realized this recently, is sometimes students try to submit their validation reports way early. Like sometimes we'll get validation reports like a month before the actual due date. In practice, that's fine, that's okay, but keep in mind that I want to go back to one of these slides real quick.
And
The
James,
slide that I showed you, yeah.
I'm sorry, and when you discuss this, can you also go over one more time this reporting for 6 months and what's required for like 6 months, 12 months? And
Yeah.
we had
Yeah,
a question
sure.
about 6 months having page 5, but I think it's good for the whole session to know.
Of course. So one thing I was pointing out earlier is that sometimes students submit their validation reports to us very early. Like your due date might not be for a month or a couple months from now, but students want to take care of the validation report, you know, early. And I get that. That's okay. That's fine. But this validation box that we get, this does not appear in the CVIS record until you're like right at your due date, right? So even if you submit a report to us early, we're not going to be able to complete the validation if this has not appeared in your account yet. And usually, I mean, the earliest, what do you think, Nicole? The earliest we see these boxes pop up might be within a week or 2 weeks of your actual due date. But if you're reporting like super early, like months early, we're not going to be able to complete this for you if you report that early. We're going to have to still wait until this box appears in your account.
And actually, James, I would say it's a few days before, sometimes after the date.
Yeah, sometimes even after, definitely.
Yeah, the CVP site for us is not showing your validation. I would say not even 2 weeks. It's like 3 days before your actual validation date.
Yes. Yeah. So keep that in mind, guys. If you want to report early, you can do it, but it's generally recommended to report, you know, in or around your actual due date, because that will ensure that this box is available to us and we can complete it right then. What happens if you submit a report very, very early is we basically have to flag it, and we have to remember that once your due date arrives, that we'll have to come back in and we'll have to go back to that report and we'll have to check off these boxes. So keep that in mind if you're wanting or thinking about submitting reports super early. Nicole also wanted me to go back to those reporting options. So for like 6, 12, 18, and 24. Now like I said, for the 12-month and the 24-month, 6-month reports, those ones are going to require that page 5 evaluation. It's the top part for the 12-month and the bottom part for the 24. The 6-month and the 18-month, these do not require I-983s. If there's no material change to your I-983 or your job information, then all you'll need to do is you'll need to complete the data report on the website, but you will not need to attach any files or any information. So what that's going to look like, I can show you actually an example here. Let me pull up the actual form. This might help you guys to actually see it and to visualize it. So here's forms and handouts. Again, we're going to go to employment right here. And you're going to go all the way down to the STEM OPT reporting form. So let's say you're in your first 6 months of STEM OPT. You just completed 6 months from your approved STEM start date, and you need to submit your 6-month OPT validation report. You can see that there's no I-983 required unless there's been a change to some of your information. Then you would want to mark that here. But if you're just reporting for 6 months or for 18 months and everything from I-983 is still the same, then all you'll need to do is you'll have to answer this list of questions, but you do not necessarily need to upload any document if it's just for a 6-month or an 18-month. So let's see if I can, I think I have to list stuff to get to the next page. The first page you can see here is just your regular bio information. So your name, your email address, your contact number, basic info. The second page is really going to be where all the content is. It's not liking one of the things somewhere.
You're missing one, James. I think it was
Okay.
video.
And just while James does that, just a reminder, in these boxes, please make sure you fill everything out completely. And even if it's information that's the same, because this helps with the reporting get done faster.
Yeah, definitely make sure you answer all of the questions, and that it's like addresses is one that you sometimes people will put like the street name, but they'll forget the city, the state, and the zip code. So please do answer all of the questions, especially, if it's a required field, please put the complete information. So for those people, again, submitting a 6 or an 18-month where it's just the report required and no I-983, this is going to be the most important part, is the second page of questions that we're asking you. This is ultimately what we are going to compare against what's in your SCVP to validate that everything is still the same and that you have submitted your 6-month report. So your company name, the location, the EIN if you have it available, your job title, start date, end date if applicable, and whether you're full-time or part-time, and then the description of how your job relates to your major. Okay, so this is what you're going to be submitting for a 6-month or 18-month report. Again, it may not require an I-983. So that means once you submit the data and the answers, then you've completed your validation and you're good to go. All right.
So for my situation, it's you
Well,
guys gonna
you should be all good to go. If you've already submitted your end of employment report and your H-1B is going to start on October 1, you can continue working the next 2 days on your STEM OPT. And then on Friday, on the 1st, your H-1B will kick in. And again, you can check in with us after that date to make sure SCVP closes out your record due to your change of status approval.
awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Congratulations again.
Thank you, James. Thank you so much.
Adi, I saw your hand up next. Go ahead, Adi.
Yes, James, how are you?
Very good. You're one as well, I believe, who got approved for
Yes,
H1B. Is that right?
yes.
Great. Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you, James. So same question. What I was thinking is what happens to my F1 STEM OPT when my H1B gets active on October the 1st? And I was told also to report the validation form page 5. So I was, yes, so why I had I had a question like why I need to submit the I-983 83 5 validation form. So that's
Okay, Adi,
yeah.
when you received your approval and your EAD card for STEM OPT, what were the dates? What was your original end date for STEM OPT?
The initial or the because on the extension OPT.
For the extension.
No, I haven't received because I got.
So are you on a cap gap from your first C3B?
Yes,
OPT?
yes.
Got it. Okay, so that cap gap, it extended your initial OPT to September 30th. So
Yes.
you never submitted a STEM OPT application. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
If you never submitted STEM OPT, you do not need to submit any page 5 because you were never approved for STEM OPT. So
Yes.
if you only stayed on your initial C3B post-completion OPT,
Yes.
and you never applied for STEM OPT, you do not have to submit a page 5. You only need to update your information in your SCVP portal like you have been, record the end date as September 30th or whatever day is your last day of OPT employment, and that will be it. Same with you. After 10/1, the government should automatically close your CVS record due to your change of status approval. You can follow up with us after 10/1 if you'd like to confirm that your record has been successfully closed out.
Yes, but I have a question here because on the STEM OPT extension, I also got an RFE. So what happens then? Like, I mean, I also have my H1B approved, but I also got an RFE. So what happens then?
Yeah, you pretty much, your STEM OPT, if you're going to proceed with the H1B, you're going to accept the H1B and take on that status, then
Right.
your STEM OPT can just be voided. It will not be in effect because you can only hold one status at a time. So
Right.
if you're going to take on your H1B status, your F status will come to an end after October 1st.
So no need to report for the RFE?
Well, you might want to communicate with USCIS, and you might want to withdraw the application and let them know that you've been approved for your H1B and that you will no longer pursue F1 STEM OPT. I would recommend that. If you're working with an employer or with a legal team from your H1B employer, you can ask them if they can give you any other guidance or assist you with doing a withdrawal of your STEM application.
Right, right.
Yeah, you normally, when you want to withdraw an application, you need to formally request the withdrawal in writing by sending an email or a letter to USCIS. You may be able to do it online if you filed your
You're right,
online as well.
Yes, you're absolutely right, because the USCIS, when they mailed me the RFE, they sent that any further evidence subject to this RFE should be accompanied with this letter. So if I'm sending an application for withdrawal, it has to be sent with the same letter back to them.
Then in that case, what I'd recommend is that you reply with a letter of explanation that you'd like to formally request to withdraw your STEM application. And I'd also include a copy of your H1B approval notice explaining that you've been approved for this status and that you intend to move into your new status and you'll no longer pursue F1 STEM OPT.
Perfect. And you said that right now first thing I have to do is go to the SCVP portal and report my end date, right?
Yes, that is correct. Since you're still within your first C3B,